Thank you again. I'm sure many of you recognize me from the last session that we had, and I did hear you out on your request to have another session that was specifically about how would we use the kiosks and or the app potentially for the new parking lot formats that are going into the Upper Haven lot behind CVS, and then Brandy Court, which is behind Pamplemousse, which is behind Pediatric Dental Associates. Just as a disclaimer, those lots are the only two locations where kiosks are going in the whole town of Reading. So besides those areas, you don't need to worry about this. I will also ask, because we have RCTV today taping this, I'd like to put this out on social media, on the website, so that we have an educational video. Because of that, I would love if we could hold all of our questions until the end. You might see things come up in the presentation. You might have a question about it. I'd really, really like if we could please hold all of our questions and thoughts until the end, if that's good with you. I have you eating, which is, potentially going to help that a little bit. So, we can go to the next slide, please. So, we're not going to read through all of this, but I will be handing out flyers in the lots, and they're going to include frequently asked questions, which will lay out a lot of the details, a lot of the information, background information around why are we doing kiosks in these lots, how do I pay for them, how are they enforced, all of those types of things. So this will be one side of the flyer that I will put on people's windshields. I'll go to the businesses downtown, and this will also be something that is available on the Reading Police Department's parking website as well. Next slide, please. In addition, on the back of these two pagers that I'll be sort of handing out in the lots and around downtown, we have the updated 2022 downtown parking amendments. And so I think it's helpful context to understand that the reason why the kiosks have been suggested, why we are doing paid parking in the Upper Haven CVS and the Brandy Court lots, is to try and turn over traffic. Right now, we do not have high utilization of these lots. They are some of the only municipal lots in the downtown. We have a lot of employees parking there all day. We struggle with enforcement. And so to just contextualize, why are we doing kiosks? Why are we doing paid parking in these parking lots? It is to turn over the cars in those lots so that people like you that want to come downtown and have an open parking spot available to go into CVS will have a spot more readily available versus the current format, which typically sees mostly employees parking there, or it sees people parking there all day. It's been unregulated. Luckily, we do have a new parking enforcement officer, but it's all for the benefit of the downtown. So that's just some of the context behind why are we doing paid parking in these two lots. And so on the slide here, you can see that it's Brandy Court right there, and then it's the Upper Haven CVS lot that will be paid municipal parking lots. The map also shows areas that employees can park. That's not really a concern, I don't think any of you are employees in the downtown. Perhaps you are. But the other areas that are important to note is that parking on the streets around downtown Reading will remain free, and it will be managed in this manner, right? There will still be 2-hour parking spots. You can see that those are all in green. So if you just don't like using the kiosks, or you don't want to use, you don't want to pay for parking, there's plenty of parking in and around the downtown area, for sure. Next slide, please. So, locations of the kiosks. Keep this in mind. One of the kiosks is going to go directly in front. If you recognize this, anybody recognize this part of the CVS building? Perfect. So as you walk from your parked car, you will see a kiosk right there. We have already poured the pads out there. You might have seen that already. And mid-July, we will actually install the kiosk. I had a question about, what is a kiosk? think of it as an ATM that you approach, and instead of taking cash out, you can park once you finish your process. So this will be one of the locations, okay? Next slide, please. The other one, it will not be on top of the dumpster. The dumpster will be moved to the right. But it is the, believe it or not, the only other viable location in the CVS or Upper Haven lot. It's kind of tucked away in the back corner. It's good because it captures some of those cars on the back end, but this is another location where a kiosk will go. There will also be signage directing people parking to where the location is of that kiosk. So if you miss the one at the CVS entrance, or maybe you're parking and you're going directly down over to Haven Street, you can catch this one as well. Next slide, please. Randy Court. Some people aren't as familiar with this particular municipal parking area. Again, to contextualize, it's right near the quilt store, and it's on the back end of that newer development to Haven Street, Pamplemousse, those areas near Tread. So the kiosks here are going to go right in the center of the parking lot. One's going to go on this little built-up island. They've also already poured this pad. Next slide, please. Another one's going to go on the very other end of that middle sort of parking area. So there's 4 kiosks total. This is where they're going. I think that this achieves pretty good coverage and pretty good accessibility within these lots to try and get and walk over to those kiosks and then be on your way to the rest of downtown. Next slide, please. All right. So for those who are asking themselves, what is a kiosk? Here you are. On the left-hand side is the model that we have ordered, and that is coming to Reading. We'll be installing that. I put the features down here at the bottom. They're not really that important for you. They're solar powered. The color display is nice. It'll make it, easy to sort of look at and utilize from a user standpoint. But the steps are pretty simple. I'm sure that people here have used a parking kiosk before, and if you haven't, the steps are simple. They lay them out for you on the screen as well. So you don't need to go up to the kiosk and already know exactly how to use it. It'll walk you through it, but I'll also show you how to do it here today. You can keep these handouts. We'll also have materials available on the Reading Police Department website. And so there's plenty of ways to sort of learn how to use them, but I think it's pretty straightforward. If you can use an ATM, you could probably use the kiosk. So, let's actually go to the next slide. We'll step through each of these. So when you approach it, you'll press any key to start. This person's pressing the green one, green for go. And the screen will light up, and it will walk you through this whole process. And the next slide, please. You'll enter your plate number. So this is maybe some place where you might get hung up, you might get frustrated because you've now parked your car and you're telling yourself, I'm going to use the kiosk, I don't want to use the app, which we'll get to later. You can use either or, but you're like, I want to use the kiosk. You walk all the way over to the kiosk and you don't remember your license plate number. So if you have a little booklet or a calendar or even on your phone in your notes, I would recommend that you write down your license plate number somewhere, because every time you use the kiosk, you will need to enter your plate number in. This is how the system registers your car. It starts the timer on how long you're deciding to park in the lot, and it also helps the parking enforcement officer know how long you've parked for and whether or not you're out of compliance with the time that you have paid for, if that makes sense. If you remember when maybe we used to chalk tires, this is digital chalking of your tires. Okay, next slide, please. All right, so insert form of payment. So in this case, these kiosks do not accept cash. They do not accept cash. The newer versions of kiosks in general are not accepting cash. There's many issues with that. The vendor that we had communicated those to us. It's just a management issue. So we would definitely recommend that you use your debit or credit card at these kiosks as your form of payment. Next slide, please. You'll then use the blue buttons to select the amount of time that you'd like to park. I'll cover this again, we covered this last time. When you get to the lot, you can park for an hour, for up to an hour, for free. We're clear on that. You still need to enter your license plate in if you are parking for a free hour. That's how you register your vehicle. When you select that hour on the kiosk, it won't charge you anything. You won't need to run a transaction. It'll just say, okay, you're good to go. Make sure you're back in an hour, because if you go above that hour, you will get a ticket. Let's say you want to park for more than an hour. My understanding is that you'll have to park in whole hour increments. So if you want to go above an hour, it'll be a 2-hour parking session. If you park for a 2-hour parking session, you will need to pay for that first hour. And I think that's a little confusing. It's been confusing to describe, but you can park for an hour, for up to an hour for free, but if you do anything above that, 2 hours or more, you do pay for that first hour. Clear? Yeah. Excellent. Next slide, please. And then you'll press OK. Next slide. You'll be on your merry way. So that closes the how to use the kiosk segment. This next segment is about using the smartphone app. And it's going to feel like a longer presentation. I used my Town of Reading phone to download the app, and I screenshotted step by step on my phone, how would you, if you have never used the app before, on your smartphones, what is each screen gonna look like? And I'll walk you through exactly what each screen means and how you would set an account up to use the app. Many people use the app to park. In other municipalities around the state, around the country, it is, I think the statistic is around 90% or more of users use the smartphone app to park. And in this case, it is pay by phone. So when the kiosks are installed and when the paid parking is now implemented, and just remember as a disclaimer, you can use the kiosk. You do not have to use the smartphone app. You don't have to use both. You can use either or. So if you feel overwhelmed by the smartphone app, don't worry. You can absolutely just use the kiosks, okay? But when and if you do want to use the smartphone app, you will download it. We'll go over that. But I want you to be aware that in the lots, we will be putting up signage. I have these signs in my office already that show the Pay by Phone logo. They say park and pay using Pay by Phone. Pay by Phone is the name of the app. That is what you would look for in the app store on your phone. So whether you have an Apple or you have an Android phone or whatever, that is the logo, the green logo that says Pay by Phone is what you would want to install. Both of the lots will have codes associated with them. You can see that this one's 18220. So I think, I'm hoping, because I don't know exactly, one is 18220, the other lot is 18221. But this is the code that you're going to need to plug into the app to register your car like you sort of do at the kiosks, okay? This code is only needed for the smartphone app. At the kiosk, you do not need this code because you're not using the app. You're just plugging in your license plate. Next slide. So on your smartphone, if you've already done this before, which maybe you have, or you can have friends, family, or you can attend a digital learning session. We are having one on August 24th with Nancy from the Council on Aging. We can help you, others can help you install this app on your phone, all right? So that's what you'll do first, is you'll go on your phone, you'll go to your app store, and then you will download the Pay by Phone app. When you do that and you open it, the next slides will show what those screens are gonna look like. Next slide, please. So this is the first screen. It says Pay by Phone, you'll hit next. You'll read this if you like. It's talking about how timely it is with its notifications. You'll hit next. And then you'll say, Pay by Phone would like to send you notifications. If we're familiar with what notifications are, that's when your phone buzzes, goes boop. Either you get an email or something like that. In this case, you want to sign up for notifications. You want to allow them because you want your phone to go, Bzz. By the way, your parking session's almost up, so then you run out to the parking lot and you get in your car and you be on your way. Next slide, please. Pay by phone would like to send notifications, you hit allow. Pay by phone to use your location. You do want the app to be able to use your location. It feels kind of like, ooh, why does it need my location? It's just so that when you look on the map on your smartphone app, you can also click on the lot and it will help direct you to paying for parking in that lot. So you do want to allow while using the app. Next, assuming you've never used this app before, you'll register. So we'll hit the register button. Next slide, please. You'll go through it, you'll say accept all to the terms, and then a new screen will show up. It'll show you a new map of where you are based on your phone's location, based on where you are with your phone. Next slide, please. So it's going to ask you now, it says, it's a little blurry up there, but it says search location or address. So this actually is a map of the Reading Depot area. It already has a pay by phone app. Maybe you've noticed that before, maybe you haven't. So there's already a little purple icon there on the map that you can click and it will automatically load the code in for you. In this case, the Reading Depot's code is 4279. But in your case, when you go to park in these particular parking lots, like I said, you're gonna see signage like this on posts, okay? And so for the CVS lot, you type in 18220. And then it'll say, oh, you're brand new. Vehicle information is needed. So you'll say, okay, I'm gonna add a new vehicle. You might be there all day long. What I would recommend is, instead of waiting, don't wait. Don't wait to set this app up when you get into the parking lot. Because then you'll be sitting in your car, boggling your brain around. I highly recommend, if you are planning to use this smartphone app, have a friend or a family member, or maybe a few of you get together, put your heads together, and just pre-register all of these things. This does not reflect what you have to do every single time. Once you are set up, the app will remember your vehicle information, it will remember your license plate information, it will remember your payment, your preferred method of payment, and it will be much more seamless. I simply want to show you how to register so that you can take these packets home, and if you do decide to use the app, and work with someone to get yourself set up. All right? It seems like a lot, and I did mention it, it will seem like a lot. You don't do this every single time, okay? So you add a new vehicle, next slide. It'll ask you for your license plate, state, vehicle type, description is optional. I put in some of my information here. And then once you're done with that, it'll ask you for your length of stay. This one is 1 day or 2 days. That's because this example is the Reading Depot. I couldn't use the lots that you're actually gonna be using this in because they're not set up yet, okay? So this will look different for you when you actually use it for the CVS or the Brandy Court lot. Next slide. Now you'll enter your payment method. Again, it's going to save all of this information. You do not need to do this every single time. This is where you can enter in a card number. You'll enter in all of those details, and then once you're done with that, you will hit this button, Pay and Park, and you'll be on your merry way. Next slide. That's the end of that process. So I did actually speak with a couple of the staff here, and I think that for the digital learning session, by the time that rolls around in August, I think I'm going to put together a trifold brochure that is a simplified, not printout presentation of how to use the app, how to use the kiosks step by step, and it will show you how to use the Pay by Phone app after you've registered, okay? And so you can keep that in your car if you ever get confused, and you can reference that. Once you're done that process, and you're in your car and you say pay to park, it's like, whoop, your parking session started. You don't have to do anything else. You can just leave your vehicle. Your phone will let you know when your parking session is almost expired, or you can track it yourself. And when you're ready to leave, whether you have used the kiosk or the app, when you are ready to leave the parking lot, you do not need to do anything else. You don't need to return to the kiosk. The kiosk will not print anything out for you. it has a system that communicates with the parking enforcement officer. You do not need to put a ticket on your dash. You don't need to do anything. You just need to either do all the app steps or register your car at the kiosk, and then you can be on your merry way. And when you're ready to leave, you do not need to open the app again. You do not need to go to the kiosk. You can simply just leave the parking lot. Okay.